when you get to the social media page of a brand, like you want to immediately feel the personality that they're putting out there. And then when that's inconsistent, that's when the followers are manufactured from paid ads. You're not connecting with your audience. You're not building engagement and community.
How do you actually think of the right stuff to put in your newsfeed, in your email, in your ads, all of that?
If you're a new brand and you're just starting or you're just starting to get organized, I would always recommend starting with.
Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. This is your host, Ralph Burns, founder and CEO of Tier 11, not alongside my amazing co-host, Lauren E. Petrullo today, but alongside another amazing guest, which took a little arm twisting to get her on today because she's a bit camera shy, but that's okay because sometimes those are the best people to have on shows like this because they've got the best stuff because nobody ever hears about it. And that's why we have today on the show the head of email and social media marketing for Tier 11. Yes, I'm bringing another Tier 11 person on this podcast because they're awesome. And this guest is awesome. None other than Alisan Matthews. Welcome to Perpetual Traffic.
Thank you. Wow, that's quite the introduction.
Yeah, well, you are awesome. So I said this the other day. If I could clone Alisan, I would. And it's because you've got such a diverse group of skills. Obviously, you know social media marketing, you know email, but at the heart of all of this is content. And content is the thing that you kick my ass on all the time on the marketing side, as well as really drive all the Tier 11 marketing. But you're also behind some pretty huge brands that we work with here at Tier 11. And I think there's really a specific specialty that you really enjoy, which is beauty brands. And it's obviously a specialty that we've talked about here a lot on the show. We're obviously focusing on that industry just in general as a business, which is sort of a verticalization strategy. But at the heart of all of that, whether it's paid ads, whether it's email, whether it's social media, whether it's just creative ideas in general, it comes back to content. And how do you actually think of the right stuff to put in your newsfeed, in your email, in your ads, all of that. And that's something that I think a lot of people really struggle with. And we were on a call, you and I, with a friend of ours who is sort of struggling with a new e-commerce business. And this was really her question. She's like, where do I start? And you went through a lot of different sort of steps. And I said, first off, that'd be a great episode for Perpetual Traffic. One of the reasons why you're on here. But it's like, how do you think about all this stuff? And then how do you kind of organize it? And now you know you've got this matrix that we're going to show here today and give a giveaway as well. But let's just start sort of from there, because all of the things that we talk about here on Perpetual Traffic, especially now with the Andromeda update, begins with great content. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really hard for businesses in the beginning because they just kind of want to talk about everything. But I always recommend that business owners sort of just go back to like their About Us page on their website and read it. And like, what is the message that you're trying to put out to your audience about your business specifically that's going to make you different than other businesses? And what are your business goals? So all the content from email to social sort of always centers around answering those two questions. Who's my audience? What do I want them to know? And what are ultimately the business goals that I'm trying to achieve with the content that I'm putting out there on every channel?
So on the call that we had with this e-commerce brand, very distinct sort of style, that was the big message, is that there are a lot of apparel companies that are out there, but your look and feel plus your story is how you actually came upon this business is kind of the pitch, is the basis for a lot of the content. Is it just kind of that simple? And plus the fact that, you know, she discovered the idea when she was on a trip to India. She sources everything. It actually has her own sort of supply chain, not like just reselling other people's stuff. So it's like, is it just that sort of simple? And then take us through like a stepwise approach to it. Okay, look at my About Us page. What is my founder story, so to speak? Like, what makes me different than everything else that's out there? Like what's sort of the deal behind the brand, sort of behind the scenes kind of thing, or the BTS, as you always tell me. So how do you sort of compartmentalize that and also systematize it at the same time so that it doesn't come out as just a bunch of crap that is just discombobulated and nobody really knows what the direction is?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with this woman that we met up with, like she had a lot of the answers, which most founders do. But I think after a certain amount of time, they forget like how unique they are. Because you notice like both of us are asking her questions like, oh, you design the clothes yourself. And that only came up like 30 minutes into the call. And for me, that's like huge, like
huge
gold. Like you founded it because you wanted styles. I mean, that is like your gold right there. Like, why did you start this business? The why. And that's where I would start with anyone. Founders are obviously amazing to have access to, especially if they're willing and able to get behind the camera and make content for you. But it's really just like that why. Like, why did you start this business? Because more than likely, that's going to be your unique identifying factor of your company and exactly what you should lean into for all of your content. And then from there, just working through those questions of like, what do I want my audience to know about why I started this business? Like, did I start this business because I felt like there was like a gap? It's kind of like your Shark Tank pitch. Like,
Yeah.
what's your Shark Tank pitch? Like, why did you start this? Because you saw a gap in the industry for X, Y, and Z reasons, and then regurgitating all of those answers into something like the content matrix is really what's going to create this path for you on your social channels, email, paid ads, whatever, even your website, to really hone in on that story. And it doesn't have to be like overly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like a million reasons. It's just really like, what is different? Like anyone can start a fashion brand. There's millions of them. Beauty, same thing. But like, what is the differentiator with your brand compared to others?
Yeah.
And normally that comes from the founder's story.
That's such an interesting and simple way of looking at it, because we look at 10 or 12 new businesses every single week. And then we obviously, one of the first things that we do is we go over to what their ads are, what their socials are. And the vast majority of businesses, whether it's business, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's any other industry, it's the ads and the content are pretty much buy my stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of this thing. If you like it, cool, buy it.
Right.
And you will get a certain subset of individuals that will buy that. And if you do a website conversion campaign on Advantage Plus and you just put all those in there, you will get buyers for sure. However, there's a finite number of them.
Yeah.
And second,
purchases.
And you probably won't get repurchases. And if you discount it, they'll come back and look for a discount. That's another huge thing. Ooh, site-wide sale, 10% off. I'm all for the coupon code, opting in, all of that, which not something we probably talk about here on the show. The point is like most of the ads that you see have a content problem. Most brands that we see have a content problem. And if you sort of start from the beginning, it's like, why did you start? It's like Simon Sinek, start with why. Why did you start the brand? What makes you unique? There's thousands of other choices, maybe even millions of other choices when it comes to women's apparel or beauty brands. We're doing this right now, going through, literally hundreds, if not thousands now of different beauty brands. Why are they different based upon, what they actually do? What's the end result? Each one of them has a unique story. And I think that oftentimes gets lost. So you sort of start there. And when you're doing this, like you're doing it for a really large brand right now, which is going through a rebranding, and they're in the e-commerce space, the drinkware space. And that story of like who we are, what we are, I assume that's kind of part of this overall rebranding to sort of set the record straight, as opposed to just competing against 10 other brands that they're an undifferentiated product that just so happens to be, purchased in a very large retail outlet.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, it's so much easier to work with a brand that has a true brand story than it is to work with a brand that already has a social media presence. Like, I would take a brand with a brand story any day over a brand that has a ton of followers already and doesn't have a brand story behind it or is pivoting their brand story. It's really, really important to have brand identity. And I think a lot of the bigger brands lose that if they're not doing it well. So, some don't, and they're killing it on social media. But the ones that aren't, and you go to their social media and it just feels like this lifeless feed of just random trends or chasing, like there's no personality. Like when you get to the social media page of a brand, like you want to immediately feel the personality that they're putting out there. And then when that's inconsistent, that's when, the followers are manufactured from paid ads or their boosted posts, or it's just you're not connecting with your audience. You're not building engagement and community. And I can't tell you how many brands I work with personally that when we first audit their account, they're big, they have this huge following and everyone's really excited. Their engagement rate is like 0.5 percent. Like they don't know who they're talking to. But then you have these smaller brands where the founder is doing most of the heavy lifting because most people don't want to invest in a social media manager in the beginning anyways. And their engagement rate is solid because they're actually just regurgitating the truth and what they want to get out there. Like why I started, they're being real. Like people on social media want to see real, authentic content that's relevant to the product and to the brands. And something that's really exciting about the brand that you're talking to is I would argue right now they don't have a really deep brand story. And I know that they know that and they're working on that. And now they're going to shift into Japanese heritage and like where their bottles really came from and the founder's story, like getting back to the roots. Like, why did this brand ever exist in the first place? And I think watching that is going to be incredible. Like seeing that story come through on the socials. I mean, that is like music to my ears when I hear stuff like that, because you punch it all into this content matrix. I mean, it's easy. If you don't have a story, organizing that content that you're putting out there, it feels messy and it comes across messy on socials as well.
For somebody who's listening, they're like, all right, well, brand story. I don't really care about brand. I just want to sell my stuff.
Yeah.
And that's always been like my performance marketing or my brand marketing. And I would argue that they're both inextricably linked, especially now. And when we talk about like how to organize it, like that is a part of it. But is that a founder's story, origination story, just one pillar in the content matrix? Or is that, and then you kind of move on to the next one? Like, how do you kind of do it? Like and we can kind of show what we're talking about here. So the very cool graphic that we're going to give away here that Alisan, I think put together like overnight one night. Like, I don't know how you did this fast, but anyway, it's super cool. It's called the Content Matrix. You can get it over at tier11.com/content-matrix. Or if you don't know dashes, I suppose we'll put a redirect in Content Matrix. So take a look at this here. So anyway, oh, this is an updated version. I don't have the updated version.
Yeah, we had, I made it, but then we had our local designer do some magic.
Wow. So this is even cooler. Okay.
Yeah. Getting started, to your point, is usually the hardest part. And I fully recognize not everyone has this really great founder story. So I felt like it was almost cheating starting there because that's really easy.
But doesn't every business, every business wasn't created by spare parts and AI. Like there's even our business, there's a founder's story.
Yeah.
Like as lame as it might be, but yeah. Like there is one,
It's really hard to get founders behind. Like I've specifically worked with brands where I'm like, something's not working. Usually when people call us, it's because something's not working. And so we diagnose. Right. And then I'm just, I'm slacking Lauren while we're in the calls. I'm just like, they need to lean into the founder story, like every time. Every time. So every time it's that. When you get on a discovery call with a client and they can't even really tell you, why do you have this business? Like, why is your product different? There's a million water bottles in the world. Why should I buy your water bottle? Why should I buy your lipstick? Like, why? Like, why is yours better than everyone else out there? So when brands can't answer that question, that's where it's really hard because it comes through on all the content and not just social media, like email, paid ads, everything, your website. When there's no soul, people notice that. And nowadays with like AI and everything coming out, like authentic content is king. Right. So saying that, I would say to get started with the pillars, start with the basics. Have ChatGPT help you. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But understand why, like understand the why of your brand, because that is what like ChatGPT can't give you. That's what, well, ChatGPT can sort of research what people think your brand is for, which is also really interesting, and you should know that.
Yeah.
But, you know, well, why did you start the brand? What makes you different? Like, what is your biggest differentiator? And sort of start there. And you can really start that by the 4 categories that almost every, like if you look at Hootsuite, Sprout Social, all of them will have the sort of help article on how to get started with pillars.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a new brand and you're just starting, or you're just starting to get organized, because a lot of us are posting content with no organization behind it, no shame. I would always recommend starting with product and promotion as one pillar, education or value, community, lifestyle, and engagement or entertainment. I feel like those are pretty standard and a good place to start.
So if you're listening to this and you're not over on a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's over at perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. You can actually see this. This is version 2.0 of the tier 11 content matrix here. And thank you, because my eyes are like squinting there. I'm like, what does that one say? But this is kind of how you start. This is like, this helps you with, you know, blank slate, blank page syndrome to at least get going. And I couldn't agree more on the why you exist part of it, because I've told this story a number of times on the show. When we used to do, for every new client, we always used to go to an on-site, and I would go through like the why you started this business. Like, what is your why? What's your vision? What's your mission? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, I would have to ask the why question 12 times in order to sort of get down to like why you actually do what you do, or why you started it. It's like either one of those things. So the vision part is sort of part of the founder story part, but that makes it less bland. Like everything's bland in AI. Like AI land, like everything out there, like nothing's really interesting. People want to see interesting, unique stuff that's real humans are behind it. And trust me, this isn't like some soft, you know, approach to advertising and to marketing. Like that's the real thing. Like all humans want to do that. Why do we have like Instagram and Facebook? So we can see like behind the scenes on people's lives, because it's real and it's content that is unique and stands out. And this is the same sort of concept here. So it mirrors human behavior in so many different ways. And it's the funny thing about advertising and marketing. Nothing's really changed all that much. And ever since, you know, Claude Hopkins first started, you know, it's all the same now. So anyway, so back to the content matrix here over perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. Make sure you check it out. You can also get this at tier11.com/content-matrix. So take it away. You're the expert. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I agree. I think also a good point to add there is like maybe 5 to 10 years ago, you used to just be able to send out to a bunch of influencers, have them post and tag your brand and, you know, call it a day. But unfortunately, we're living in an era now where like every brand is doing something pretty unique and cool on social, especially if they have a following. Yeah. And so to stand out, not only does your business need to stand out, but like your social strategy and the way you present all your content needs to stand out. You can't just post a cute picture anymore. You know, you got to build that community. And part of it starts from, in my opinion, here on the content matrix, just understanding like okay, so now you know why your brand is out there, what makes you different, your mission, all that fun stuff. And honestly, sometimes that is the hardest thing to get to in order to get to the content matrix. Mm-hmm. But figure that out, feel good and confident about that, because I can promise you that if you don't have those answers, this is going to be really hard to do. But if you do have the answers, coming up with a content matrix is super easy, and you'll just be spitting out content like it's nothing, which is everyone's dream, really. So you can start with the generalized 4 pillars. Most people use these pillars when they're first getting started, because when you first get started, you don't really know what your audience specifically likes, right? Like everyone has a different audience on social. I can't do the same thing from account to account. I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately it's not. Yep. So the first part is really testing and refinement to understand what gets your content a lot of reach, what gets your content a lot of views, and what gets your content a lot of engagement. So to start with the content matrix, we'll just start, for example, with the first pillar. So you plug all your pillars into the top here. And then from that second row, you're putting in topics that help promote the pillar. So for the first one, we're doing product and promotion. So any new drops that you're coming out with, best sellers, want to lean into new drops, but you also still want to lean in to your hero products, your best sellers, and the stuff that you sell that you know people love and bring people back for more. Like one really interesting question I love asking brands is, what is your best selling product that brings in the highest repeat purchasers?
Yeah, great question.
Focus on that, like make it simple. Like these are simple things.
And a third would be your highest profit margin.
Yeah.
If you can get that all together, that's it. That's the Triple Crown right there. So
it's just like answering simple things like that and then just plugging it in here. So best sellers, that's my best sellers.
Yep.
And then also the repeat purchase, because I'm an email marketer at heart. So retention is huge for me.
For sure.
And then seasonal. So seasonality is huge. We know this across every industry. If you lean into what is trending and what is seasonal in the moment, it's fall, it's Christmas, it's 4th of July. People like to see that kind of content and it resonates with the audience best. Versus when you post something in a seasonal moment that's not seasonal, you don't see as great as results from it. So always leaning into seasonality as it fits for your brand. Fits and features. Obviously, we want to show people why they should buy the product and why it's good. And then any like discounts, offers, or bundles that come up as well. So again, this can look different for every brand. It's not always going to look like this, but it's just topics that support this overarching pillar of what you want people to know about your product and how you want to promote it on your channel. So for this is for social media.
So this totally makes sense. And you're doing this one first, which is cool because this is probably the one people are most focused on, probably not in this way, but at least they're just showing pictures of the products, going back to our original point. So this isn't that much of a pivot, but it's hierarchical here. It's like product and promotion isn't necessarily the first thing you want to do, or maybe it is. If you're starting from scratch, maybe it's more the founder story. But for this is probably, if you're listening, and you're like, yeah, well, that's most of my socials is me just showing off our products. This at least gives you a structure and a format that makes it more interesting and engaging.
Definitely. And it allows you to this is really like the first tier of this. And the second tier, it's really great to have your whole marketing team, even CEO, depending on how involved. I feel like CEOs are always overly involved in marketing. Might just be my startup experience, but
they are.
Yeah. So, didn't mean that as like a dig for you.
No, not at all. Believe me, I'd love to get myself out, but I keep pulling myself back in. So anyway,
I think these are good for almost the whole team to be at least aligned on, because this is really where when you're a social media manager, and if any are listening, I'm sure you can relate, your boss is like, what is this video? Like, why did you post this? Like, I don't get this on social media. This is where you come back and be like, oh, this supports our topic of, for product and promotion, you wanted to focus on the benefits and features. So these first two columns here are for me, like the most important for me to align with the clients on. Yeah. I'm not as concerned about them loving every single content idea that comes next. And so there's 3 subtopics here. And essentially what this is like, these are your video ideas. So it doesn't have to be 3. It really can be as many as you can think of.
Right.
But again, it's just keeping you organized to support the overarching message, which is product and promotion. And then further down, I want to, focus on best sellers. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to look for customer reviews, showing videos on how it helps your everyday, leading into like the emotional support that this product gives people and how it eases their day to day. We know content like that always works really well. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a million ideas you can come up with for each of your best sellers, if it's, lipstick or water bottles, whatever it is. And then other ideas like why we love it. Sometimes it's fun to get like your crew involved, like people that work for the company involved and show their face on socials, or influencers. So this next column is really your social media team brainstorming different content angles that they want to essentially turn into video scripts and then go out and implement.
This is pretty cool. Is this industry agnostic here, or does it? I mean, this is a little bit more geared towards e-commerce, so it is my guess. But is this applicable to anybody who's just trying to do this for any industry, or what's your sense on this?
Yeah, I really think this could be, for me, I've seen content wheels before, and usually they're just all built a little bit differently. This is just how my mind like really works. And I found this to be the best way to like organize and regurgitate what I'm trying to say over and over and over again so that it stays consistent. But I really, sometimes I use this for email marketing. I think you could use this for paid ads too. Like if you have this overarching pillar that you're trying to support in your strategy, but you're like, cool, I need to show BTS. Okay, well, what am I going to show? Like, what are some video ideas and how can the whole team sort of get together and brainstorm different ideas? So I think this could help across different channels in e-com, but also different industries as well. Like if you are a business trying to sell your services, like for tier 11, for example, my pillars might end up being people. So it could be you, Lauren, John Moran. And then I'm breaking down what are some, 5 topics I really want John Moran to focus on based on what is doing well on socials. And then how do I want him to record those 5 topics? Is it, a YouTube long form where he's talking about X, Y, and Z? Is it a live? Is it short form on TikTok? Is it a series? So you can get, like, I think the more you do this, the more you kind of see all the opportunities that it opens up for you. And it's really just a brainstorming exercise to help keep you organized and on like, it's sort of like looking at your thesis sentence like over and over and over again and like always going back to that to make sure that like all the content you're putting out there supports this overarching goal so that the consumer absorbs it better.
Yeah. And if you are talking about like what John is talking about the most, it's this. Which perfectly weaves into all of this. We're focused on this sort of content diversification strategy, but it all stems from this. It's all in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same thing.
Easily take those categories from content diversification. You get your paid media buyer comes to you and says, hey, I need to see content like this, this, and this. Just pop that into the pillars and then build topics based off of that. So founder story, build 5 things you want the founder to talk about and focus on. And then from there, you can come up with millions of video ideas to really get the ball rolling on testing and again, just organizing really all your thoughts.
All right. So next, that's product or promotion. So there's 4 segments on this wheel. We're not going to get to all 4 here today. That's why you can get it over at tier11.com/content-matrix. If you don't know how to spell matrix, you're listening to the wrong show. Sorry. All right. So the next part is education, is my guess.
So education and value is a big one that most like high level CEO, CMO are going to want you to focus on for social media, especially is just how I want the customer to be educated on how to use the product. This one, and this is why the content matrix is amazing because it's diversifying what you're putting out there. Because if I constantly am just making videos about how to use this water bottle or showing that it's leak proof by flipping it upside down or showing the shade of lipstick, it's boring. Like people don't come to social media. I mean, they sort of want education, but you really need to be clever in the way that you're educating them versus like a video of you just putting the water upside down and shaking it. So
people are used to that. That's like, yeah, that's just noise. It's just another thing.
Right. And
inner blindness kind of
like this constant state of just selling.
Right.
Where really what you're trying to do is, well, for me, my biggest number one tip for everyone is focus on your engagement rate on social media. What do they like? What from this content wheel is working? And then reiterate off of that. So for education and value.
The caveat to that, however, is not like the funny GIF that has nothing to do with your product that you just post randomly on social. People are like, yeah, people really like that. Let's use that as an ad. I'm like, that doesn't sell anything. Like literally, I've had those conversations, Allison.
I think social media, I will argue a little bit with that. I do think for ads, yes, you can't just, like ads are more intentional. And that's where I'm sure Lauren could break this content matrix down into like an ad strategy far better than I could. But I will say for social media, there's a saying that like 80% of your content is going to flop.
Yeah.
So it's like, just try it. So I do think like, don't chase every trend, chase trends that are relevant to your industry and that makes sense for your, like, don't try to make a joke out of something that's like not relatable.
Yes.
You know, like that's not going to do well in social. But if you can hit on a trend that's relatable to your industry and funny and shareable and commentable, then that's really where you're like striking gold. So I will say, like, what you're going to do is you're going to create this whole content matrix, and like 80% of it isn't going to strike gold. It doesn't mean it's it's just social media. Like, and it doesn't mean it's the pillar. It's usually the first place you start is the video angle, right? Like an unboxing. You have to be nowadays really, really clever with how you present unboxing videos because everybody does this. Yep. So it's like, how can you take all of these ideas and almost come up with the next step is like a rating system of the ideas. So like unboxing video, but like, why is it different? I'd want to see someone write a brief out for that before I'd approve for them to post one. Just because I know it's kind of like content you see everywhere now. People don't really care. I don't want to watch someone open a product. I don't care.
Right. But unless you're like right about to buy it.
Yeah.
Like you're going to watch it because you're bottom of funnel. So yeah, I get what you're saying because it's kind of cliche at this point.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of like, I mean, if the girl is, or the person is literally just opening up the product and showing it to you, cool. I can see what the product looks like on the PDP. Right. But like, if they're educating you, taking it a step further, you know, bringing it into the education and value pillar, then how can you kind of make it unboxing, but also make it product focus or education focus or value focus? Like, right. I bought this bottle and it was only $14.99 and my Stanley costs $49.99.
Yeah.
And it literally does the same thing, side by side, leak proof, you know, keeps it cold.
Right.
So it's kind of like, how do you take these ideas and then sort of come up with really clever angles to show the content? Because yes, an unboxing, typical normal video, it's not going to do well.
Yeah. And don't get too clever either. Because if the test that I always write, like if you have to explain it to somebody, then you're going too far. You're burning too many brain cells, you know. People are thinking too hard on it. So
that's why it's really nice to actually have a team for assisting, not just one person, because
absolutely.
You're like when you're like startup and you have to do it all by yourself, you're kind of like, am I going crazy? Like, is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? And then it doesn't do well. And you're like, I'm not funny.
Maybe in fact, you're just not funny, but like that, you know, if you had a team, they could tell you that you're not funny.
Yeah, exactly. This is where I would recommend getting started. It might take some time to fill it out, especially in the beginning, but hopefully this wheel is super helpful for people. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then once you go and test out all this content on the content wheel, you just come back in and reiterate from what performed well and what didn't. And again, it's sometimes what performs well for engagement rate isn't going to be what performs well for reach and impression. So understanding how to look at the metrics is probably a whole nother episode.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just the starting point.
Yeah.
Because that's where people really, I don't even know if they realize that they're not doing it right. They're just not doing it right in most cases. Because I can think of one client that we talked to. I was like, oh my God, their social media is so good. They have such a clear brand voice. Because usually by the time they come to us, that's part of the problem because they haven't done this. And so part of our strategy is to do that with you and your team and obviously our creative team, but to find that voice and starting in that direction, because most of it's pretty bland stuff. Like, here's the thing, go buy it. That's not a strategy, but this at least gives you a jump start. So once again, we didn't get into all of it here today. There's 2 other quadrants that you can also get over at material11.com/content-matrix, content-matrix. Easy for me to say. You're going to be, I don't know if it's co-hosting. I think you're producing for our next guest on Perpetual Traffic coming this week for Lauren Schwartz, our head of creative, a little special webinar. You want to pre-tease that and, you know, before we get Lauren on here?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited about it. We're going to be putting on a webinar for the first time ever with our Chief Creative Officer, Lauren. And she's basically it's really cool because she's going to be teaching on sort of like what trends we're going to see for Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. And she's going to be giving us like hooks and ad templates to use for Black Friday, Cyber Monday to try out, which I think is really cool, especially from someone who's always trying to come up with content.
Yeah.
Having hooks already given to you, that's really valuable. So that in and of itself is worth watching. And then we're going to be going through good ads and bad ads and just calling out like really how you should position your ads during the promotional season. As we know, Black Friday, Cyber Monday competitiveness is like insane.
Yeah.
And if you haven't started yet, you're basically already behind, but it's not too late.
It's not too late.
We will catch you up. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, you'll get I think it's 7-day guide on how to implement the strategy in 7 days so that you're caught up for all your Black Friday, Cyber Monday strategy.
And that's going on Tuesday, September 9th, 10 a.m. Pacific, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And September 12th, 9 a.m. Pacific. We will not leave links in the show notes to that quite yet because Lauren's going to do the show on that later on this week. But you're just hinting it. You're prequeling it. So anyway, this has been amazing today, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because it all comes back down to content. I hate to say that. It sounds cliche. Yes, it probably is at this point, but we want to repeat the things that actually do work. What we're seeing right now is a diverse content strategy working on all platforms. And how you actually do that, whether you ask for our help, you can certainly do that over at tier11.com/apply, of course. But if you're doing it on your own, this download will help get you in that right direction, or get it or tell your team to get it. And if you're a director of marketing, VP of marketing, this is an insanely great tool for you and your team. So that's over at tier11.com/content-matrix. It's the 5th time I've said it. So that's a lot of calls to action in one show here. Alisan Matthews. Yep, that's me, Mr. CTA. Thank you so much for coming on. You were really nervous to come on Perpetual Traffic, and you did a fabulous job. And I think the audience will think the exact same thing. Probably one of the most popular episodes ever is my guess. Of course, I'll say the same thing. I'll say the same thing to Lauren when she comes on. But anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you tell all the girls that.
I do, and they believe it. No, absolutely. We've never done a show like this before where we talk about it. We've referred to it, but never like this. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people connect with you personally?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah, like everybody.
Yeah.
So connect with Alisan with a SAN, by the way, and you'll see that in the title of today's show. I always get spell corrected on that, and we correct everybody who's saying tier 11. So anyway, Alisan Matthews, thank you so much for coming on Perpetual Traffic. Of course, wherever you're listening to shows like this one, or any of the other ones in our back catalog, make sure that you leave a rating and review. Helps us get out to a larger, wider audience and teach people how to do this shit the right way. That's really what we're doing here on Perpetual Traffic. And of course, all the links are going to be in the show notes over at perpetualtraffic.com. So on behalf of my absent co-host who really wanted to be here, but she had better things to do, apparently. I don't know what the hell they were. Lauren E. Petrillo, until next show, see ya.